Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Talk Thursday. Tonight, we have a special privilege for you. We have Ernie Bower, who is the chair of the Southeast Asian program in the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He's been working on Southeast Asia for nearly 30 years.
Yes.
And I think we actually met when he was with the chair of the U.S. ASEAN Business Council while I was still in Jakarta. Ernie, you're in the Philippines at an interesting time.
Indeed. It really is interesting.
What does it look like from the outside now?
I would say Manila feels like the most improved ASEAN capital in the last 5 years. I mean, there's a buzz here, and I don't think it's just about Christmas. You know, there's a confidence, a jump in the step. I think it's got to do with this president's program. The economy looks to be in great shape, and yeah, people are responding to it.
It's the third fastest, different times, first, second, and third quarters, among the fastest growing economies, second in the third quarter in Asia.
Yeah.
Do you see this being sustained?
That's a very good question. It feels real, you know, in terms of our look at the macroeconomics, some of the factors behind it. So I think this could be sustained. Really, it's a question about governance, though.
Yes.
Is the president going to be able to carry this, or is it sort of a short-term burst of, fighting corruption, and is it a quick pump in the arm? It feels real to me, but we'll see.
What's restored that confidence? I mean, you said there's a bounce. What is it? You talked about the president.
Yeah, I think people have confidence that this guy, President Aquino, is serious about governance and fighting corruption. He's got a couple big fish, and I think that's got the attention of the international community also. But to be honest with you, so far I think this is about Philippine confidence first. I think American investors, foreign investors' confidence is building, but it's behind the local guys are starting to really supersize and invest in this market. So.
What things has President Aquino done well, and what challenges remain?
I think he's laid out he's done well in communicating that he's serious about governance, and I think this still hasn't been communicated well to the world, to be honest with you. You've got super ministers, secretaries of foreign affairs, trade, finance. They've been recognized to some level, as I think Cesar Purisima won the finance minister of the region or something like that this year, and Secretary Del Rosario has gotten everybody's attention by standing up to China.
And most recently taking a position that's also not done about allowing a pacifist Japan to actually arm again.
Yeah, that was a pretty bold statement. You know, I'm not sure about that one. I think that's that would be, and it comes at a very interesting time too, because most of us who watch Japan pretty closely see an Abe prime ministership as possible. The Chinese believe that the Japanese are moving in that direction, sort of a more nationalist Japan, and so his comments actually could, sort of provoke some concern, I think, in Beijing.
That's interesting. Just a few days ago, I'm going to move you, before I move you to the security issues, this came in from social media at hotspot_930 is asking, what could you suggest in order to maintain the good performance of the Philippine economy?
I really think if you want people to believe it, you got to follow through. And I think my own view is that the Philippines should articulate a strategy. So far, I think it's been sort of blunt. I want to do governance. I want to alleviate poverty. These are domestic foundational blocks that had to be put in place.
Right.
But now, what's your strategy? What's your foreign policy strategy? Is there a trade strategy here?
Yes.
And for me, I'd like to see the Philippines sort of jump on the bandwagon and say, on security, this is what this is what our national security policy is. And then on trade, I really like to see the Philippines say, you know what, Filipino companies are worldwide competitive, and they are. They're doing business all over ASEAN, and guess what? Filipinos, the talent that Filipinos have, not only here but around the world, is world class, and have the confidence to go ahead and say, you know, we can do trade just as well as anybody else. And I'd love to see the Philippines, for instance, go ahead and sign up and be part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement.
Wow, great. Well, what do you think is behind the confidence in the stock market? We've hit like a 36th high this year. It just keeps going up and up.
I think, you know, you're seeing the results of sort of a latent risk sort of washing out of your market, because everybody knew that governance issues were a mess under your previous regime, and you know, people weren't willing to take those levels of risk, and now with macroeconomics on a better footing, and the president being pretty clear about where he's going with governance, I think Filipinos believe it.
Correct.
And if Filipinos believe it, I think that's added a lot of confidence to international investors.
A few days, well, you mentioned the Philippines having policy, national security policy.
Yes.
A few days ago, yesterday, my gosh, it was only yesterday, North Korea fired a rocket, successfully launched it over Japan's airspace. One of it, something fell in the oceans near the Philippines.
Yeah.
The Philippines condemned it. How do you think this is going to play out? I mean,
well, last time the North Koreans shot a rocket like that and stuff fell in the water near you, your cutter went out and found the Chinese at Scarborough Shoal.
yes.
Look, I think the Philippines' voice on North Korea was very much welcome. I think the Secretary Del Rosario is pretty unambiguous about his position. So
Correct.
That's a great thing. I mean, having that sort of clarity of a voice is really helpful. But I think, you know, I come from Washington, and there are questions in Washington all around Southeast Asia, but maybe particularly in the Philippines, because we're treaty allies. And the questions are, you know, how far can we go in the Philippines?
Yes.
You know, I don't think anybody in Washington expects us to return to bases, but how much access could we have? How much rotational access? Would Subic or Clark be too sensitive? Would it be something that Filipinos could accept? Under what terms? So these are questions they're still trying to get answered.
How would you describe Philippine American relations today?
I think they're good, but they lack creativity and ambition. I want to see the private sector or voices, people to people, sort of civil society voices, ask for a lot more out of this relationship. We like each other. We know each other, you know, sort of innately. It's very comfortable here as an American, and I think Filipinos feel comfortable in the United States. We could do a lot more with this relationship. So it's good, but man, what could it be? That's what we should be asking.
What does the Asian pivot mean for the Philippines?
For the Philippines?
Yes.
That's sort of what I was getting at. I mean, I think the Asian pivot shouldn't be just about the security and military aspect. It should be about a wholesome, a very wholesome in the sense of full return of focus, American focus to Asia. So for the Philippines, this should mean a joint vision with the United States on security. How can we be a friend but not impinge on your sovereignty? How can we be an economic partner without disadvantaging your competitiveness? And I think there are easy answers to those questions, but I'm not sure the right questions are being asked.
How would something like this play out given China's aggressiveness in the region?
Yeah, I'm glad you said aggressiveness, because it just is aggressive. And the Chinese, it's hard to understand why the Chinese are being so aggressive. It's undercutting their own interests, long-term interests in Southeast Asia. I think they've got themselves in a bit of a corner because of a nationalist script that they implanted after Tiananmen, and it's just dangerous for the Chinese. I think it's not constructive for anybody. So I really do feel like the Philippines standing up and sort of calling them on it and saying,
Yes.
look, we want to be friends, we want to do business with China, but look, you can't play the game this way. You know, this level of aggression is not going to be acceptable to anybody in Asia. And I have to tell you that I was just came here from Malaysia, and at very high levels I was told, you can't quote me on this, by very senior people there, but we love what Albert Del Rosario is doing in the Philippines, because someone's got to say, tell the truth about what China's doing.
Well, this is interesting because
Yeah.
this year CSIS actually said that one of the main hotspots globally is the South China Sea.
Right, it is.
Why?
Well, we have the world's most important rising power in China, challenging the sovereignty of its sovereignty issues with its neighbors, and using its economic might to question that. And that history isn't very kind
Yes.
to this scenario. In fact, if we look back, it's been a formula for conflict. Nobody wants to see conflict in the South China Sea, but that's why it really behooves all of us to work together to convince China to join in and make the rules according to international law, and then follow those rules.
It got worse this year. I mean, when you look at the map, it got worse this year, and for a whole lot of reasons. One of it is the end of the 10-year leadership cycle in China.
Right.
There was a leadership change this year, but is this year normal? I guess what's your
I think it is normal. I'm afraid
this is the new normal
our
now.
analysis is the Chinese are going to be aggressive. We don't see any signs that Xi Jinping and his team are either going to be able or willing to sort of turn this back. It feels like the scenario that CSIS sees for the South China Sea is one of continued Chinese sort of passive-aggressive pushing and staying, as far as they can draw the line, and then staying there and witness the Scarborough Shoal. They're still out there right now.
Correct.
So to them, I think they see that as a victory. We pushed and we
Correct.
held the line, and we see that in other areas. So if that's the new normal, then I think we're going to see some tussles, and that's scary. It's very scary.